Hello everyone, my name is Blake Alexander.
And my name is Chase Carter.
And this is the Blake and Chase Show. How are you doing today, Chase?
I'm doing good. How are you doing today, Blake?
I'm doing just fine. Okay, so, we gotta break it down for him. Where have we been all June?
Well, we've been at camp, I became a YouTuber, and we watched the sequel to Shrek.
That's pretty much everything. So, today's episode is going to be talking about our experience at CAU for the Verizon Innovation Learning Program. It was a STEM program that they had over the summer, well, just June, not really the whole summer. And we spent a lot of time there, at least 3 weeks, from 8:30 to 4 each day. It was pretty busy. We wanted to talk about that, and we thought it'd make for a great episode and share it with you. So Chase, just to start our audience off, tell them a good bit of a story. How did we even find out about this camp in the first place?
Well, we found out about this camp after our piano teacher, Miss Strongland, told us while we were doing class about this camp that they're holding at Clark Atlanta University and told us to tell our parents about to see if we were interested. We weren't interested in, and the rest, as they say, is history.
So they had 3 classes, right? They had the 3D design class, the AR and VR class, and they had the robotics class. We're going to go through each one, what we liked, what we didn't like. We're going to have a bit of an overall discussion about all that. So I want to start with you, Chase. What class do you enjoy the most? Let's start there.
The class I enjoyed the most was probably the rover class.
The robotics class.
Yes, the roboter class.
So, what about that class in particular?
Well, I think it really stood out against all the other classes because this class we were actually working with something physical rather than some 3D models on a computer, which actually gave it felt a lot more human, a lot more real.
We took the same classes.
Right.
So I guess my question to you is, did you just enjoy the obstacle course making that we had to do?
Yes, I
Was that
enjoyed.
the physical bit?
Just the whole class in general. I enjoyed all of it.
What did you think of the AR and VR classes then?
Well, the AR VR class was a step up from the 3D design class because it felt a lot more interactive. We were doing something a lot more interesting, rather, because 3D printing, that class was probably the least interesting of all the classes.
For you?
Yeah.
Okay. Alright, that's fair. That's fair. Fair opinion. So the AR and VR classes, first step, they took us through augmented reality, which is where you'll have holograms that interact with the real world. Virtual reality
I
is
did like the merge cube.
Yeah, that was interesting. VR is its own thing.
Fascinating.
It's exactly what it sounds like. It's a reality on its own that you can access using another device, like some glasses or something like that. So I think that most people, if you play video games or work in that field yourself, probably already know the rough difference. And then mixed reality is where you're combining the two concepts together. So I want to once again ask you, okay, fine, you didn't like those. The 3D design class, on the other hand, incorporated a lot of elements of the AR and VR class, though.
I know, but the AR and VR class was different because it was a lot more interesting.
Why was it interesting, though?
Well, I don't know. Something about it just felt it was much less tedious than the 3D design class. I don't know why. There's just something about it that was a lot less, that wasn't boring, a bit boring. Like, because the 3D design class, it was cool, but it does lag a bit in the middle.
Well, just to kind of counteract that argument, I think I enjoyed the 3D design class the most because I've always been, you know this about me, I've always liked building things, making things. I think my first, I suppose, 3D design, quote-unquote, thing I even found out all on my own is Minecraft. And, yeah, to some people, Minecraft is just a game, and it is. But I think that in more recent years, they've tailored themselves to become more of a platform than a game, depending on how you want to use it and apply it. So, for example, there was a modification I was searching on the internet one day that you can actually use right now. It's called the Create mod, and what that is that it's strictly engineering. You've got gears, you've got nuts, you've got bolts, all those different things, so a lot of it is mechanics. In other ways, you've got circuit boards, things like that are all inside the game. You can make trains, so think of, I suppose, the industrial era where you think big factories, big machines, big mechanical workings. So a lot of it was mostly engineering, I'd say. I think that's what this modification is. If you're interested in Minecraft and you have Java Edition on your computer, go check out the Create mod on CurseForge because it was amazing because they have all these different tools and stuff. And I'm still looking through all of these. Like, they've got pulleys, things like that. So that's always been a big focal point for me, is engineering. Not to say I'd like to get into the field as a place of work. I don't know yet. But I think that's why I like the 3D design classes the most, because you're actively on the computer, you're designing things, you're getting familiar with the technology, and it gives you the freedom to make whatever you want as long as you can design it on paper. And that's the thing about the 3D design class, other than just the working on the computer, because you said that you prefer tangibility, right?
Yeah.
I think that, once again, to counteract this argument, a lot of it was tangible, right, within itself, because...
No, I'm talking about, I just don't really enjoy working with computers all the time and just typing things in and building stuff with 3D. I want some more physical, real-life stuff.
Okay. But wouldn't you say that the things you put on the computer could be applied to real life, like in the case of a smart home?
Maybe, but I'm talking about actually making it in real life, not on a computer.
What about the drawing aspects, where we would have to take...
The drawing, that was actually the least boring part of the whole class.
Because you were actually writing something on paper.
Right.
So, for context, what one of the instructor there taught us, his name is Dr. O. That's what we all called him there.
Yes.
Is that he
the most enjoyable part of the class.
He was. He would take us through the process of design by first going over how our brains work, how we might interpret a drawing, different things like that. They showed us a drawing of a man sitting in a chair, but it was upside down. They told us, listen, if you want to draw anything, all you need to know is that you just need to mimic the lines, and even if it's a complicated shape, all it is lines. All it is lines. And if you break it down in that simple way, you're going to be able to draw just about anything. And they had all sorts of different things that they would show us, sort of pictures, because you've probably seen these sort of challenges on the internet, at least on BuzzFeed or something like that, where they say only 50% of people can interpret this drawing and know what it is. Maybe someone sees a rabbit, maybe someone else sees a vase, maybe someone...
Vase! It's a vase, not vase. Dude.
What?
Who says vase?
I don't...
I was like British or something?
What I'm saying is that it's illusions, right? Someone sees one thing, another person sees another thing. And all this can vary from person to person, depending on what side of your brain that you use. Some people may actually end up being able to see both. And that's usually where I lean, because at first, maybe you'll see one thing, like a shoe, right? But then if you look at it for at least 2 to 3 seconds, you see a bear, or something like that, or a woman, or an inverted sense, especially if it's two-tone, which means that there's only 2 colors, like maybe you have black and white. So maybe you see a goblet, but then maybe you also see a silver moon. None of this is probably making sense, unless you've actually seen these online. I don't know, what would be a good example of an illusion? I don't know. There's a lot of challenges online that you're gonna see. They gave us a list of problems that the world is trying to solve from the United Nations, and that our major project for that month had to go to that goal. It has to be able to solve that specific problem. And they taught us different things about smart cities, if you don't know what those are. Those are where you have a city, right? A standard city, could be in New York or whatever, but all those concepts are completely connected. Maybe you have security cameras, maybe you have cars that are all on the same networking, maybe you have automatic traffic lights. So like your team, right, when we were all working together, like your team, right, they had to be working on smart cities. You had traffic lights, like what was your project called?
Car crashing comes to a close.
Right, that was it. You want to kind of explain what yours was?
Our project was car crashing comes to a close, and it was basically using AI in the traffic lights to sort of regulate traffic to make sure we don't have any car crashes or traffic and, stuff like that. So that was what our project was.
So our team name was Project Flash Freeze, if I remember correctly. And we called our machine the Cryo Freezer, I'm pretty sure. And what our machine did was that you have glaciers in the Arctic and Antarctic that are melting, right? And due to global warming and different things like that, the world's getting hotter, all of that ice is melting. That could lead to flooding in the future. Tsunamis. I'm pretty sure I'm saying that right. If I'm not, because I remember
Why is
I would
why
say
is there
Tusami and it'd be
T in
wrong.
why
The T
is
is
there a
silent.
T in tsunami?
The T is silent. You know.
But why would we add that? What's the point of this? And why is baloney only spelled wrong? Long Bolngna. Why did you spell Bologna?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know the mysteries of life of Blake and Chase. Why did you spell it like that? I always wondered that.
Bolney. That's how you should spell it. Baloney.
Oh god. Okay.
Bunch of baloney, you ask me.
Our machine that we all kind of just worked on together was where you would freeze over the ice again. Because imagine you just got water. There's an element that exists called liquid nitrogen, and what that does is that anything it comes in contact with, it'll freeze over immediately. Our idea was based around that. You'll insert liquid nitrogen into the water, it'll freeze over automatically, and you have these Zambonis that are just going along, doing their business, freezing over the water instead of just moving in it over. So think of those vacuums that people have in their houses, those robotic vacuums that sort of just go around your house. They kind of clean up, they can map out a route, they know where they've been, they know what areas they've already been over, what areas they've already freezed. Imagine at least 2 or 3 of those that are just freezing over ice in the Arctic and Antarctic, which isn't meant to be a solution that fixes the problem, but it's meant to be a solution that slows the problem down as much as possible, so that way we can at least regulate it. Because, I mean, the world's gonna do what it's gonna do, right? It's gonna keep getting hotter. What we can do is at least try to slow down that process on our end, even if there's nothing we can do about how the Earth's temperature is moving.
Because Earth can just, heat up or cool down. That's just what the planet does.
And any changes that we make down below can affect everything else, because it's just going on in a complete circle. It's kind of like the circle of life from The Lion King. Just one thing affects the other.
Can we sing that song?
No, we're not going to be singing that. No.
Please.
No, we're not singing the Lion King song.
Why?
No. Alright, let's move on from the 3D classes. Maybe we'll visit that later. Let's talk about the robotics class. What about that? Do you want to start us off? I've been talking for a little bit.
I already talked about the robotics class.
So the robotic system that we used was called the Spiro RVR. For those of you who don't know what Spiro is, or maybe you've already heard of it, it's a robot which is a little spear, a little ball. Think of BB-8 from the Star Wars movies.
No, R2-D2. Do not talk about BB-8.
Why not?
No, he is not canon. Disney Star Wars is not canon. It's R2-D2.
Yeah, but BB-8 was meant to be an old concept design.
He's not. I don't care. He's not canon. He's not canon to Star Wars.
Anyways, ignoring my comrade here.
Comrade. That's how communists refer to each other. Communist something?
No, wait. I'm sorry. I'm just letting the audience know that if you've seen BB-8 before, he's a little ball which rolls around, which has a little dome on top, which rotates with him. That's essentially what the Spiro is. It's a ball robot. We actually have one here at the house, and I used to mess around with that for a while, and it used basic block coding, think Scratch, other variations of the same software.
What happened to that ball?
Oh, it's up in the closet somewhere. Spiro does make other robots at the same time. They do make robots other than just little ball things. They do make rovers. They do make... I think they had like a claw machine or something. Because I remember being in an Apple store and they were showing off Spiro's different robots. This was years and years ago. And they had an RVR rover or something like that. But we were messing around with the rovers because they're the most shaped like a car. I think that I would say that I enjoyed those classes as well. Mostly because of the same reasons you mentioned, like the obstacle course and things like that. The only thing about that is that I would really be more interested in seeing how the robot actually was made, like how the company went ahead and said, this circuit needs to go here, this needs to go here, this is where all the motors connect, this is how we made all the parts, which I guess would be the 3D design if you're making parts for your machine, and then bing, bang, boom, this is how you made the robot. To me, That is robotics, but at the same time, I don't want to discredit the coding aspects of robotics
Right,
because you need to program these things to move.
Because the thing was more about coding. It wasn't really about that. That wasn't really the point of the class.
Although I will say that they did show us how we could connect external motors and lights and things like that and other circuit boards inside the machine if you opened that little hatch, and they had the USB cords and things like that you could connect. So you could theoretically do different things with it. But I think that you are right. The class was more tailored to the programming aspects, which was good. Though we are familiar with Scratch already to some degree. So I would say that if you're interested in the robotics class, if you ever decide to go, just if you have some extensive learning with Scratch and things like that, if you've already done that before, make it a good review of things that you might have already gone over. I would still recommend it to you. Just go ahead, check it out. But I will say that it's very basic as it relates. It's very beginner, right? That's what a lot of this felt like. It was very much tailored to people who had never heard of Scratch, never heard of Spyro. Well, that's not true. You had a lot in our group that were familiar with it. That's why we were able to move so quickly with the programming. But I will say that these classes are tailored especially for beginners, for people who aren't familiar with a lot of these concepts. If you are familiar with these concepts, I would say that, not to say that you shouldn't go, because I think you should absolutely go if you want the college experience and seeing what it's like over there. And just to get familiar with it, all the different people, things like that. For those reasons, absolutely go and check that out. But if we're just talking about the robotics class, know that it's a very beginner entry, I'd say. Let's talk about the AR and VR class. So, we already talked about that. And then I think we'll move on. But anything about that stood out to you?
Well, we already talked about this, but I felt like it was what the 3D printing class should have been. It was a lot more active. We were doing something a lot more interesting, and it just overall had a lot more energy and was a lot more snappy. Like, there weren't any moments where it felt like, why are we still here? This is taking forever.
Well, so you're saying that some classes had better pacing than others, depending on what time of day it was.
Much better paced, and I felt like I got more out of that class than I did the 3D printing class.
Okay.
I think the AR/VR class was the class I got the most out of.
Because I remember you were making all sorts of different environments. Like, what was your design that you were making?
Well, I was trying to make this design that's basically if the Lord of Flies ended with a guy testing a nuclear weapon and everyone dies.
Yeah, the Lord of the Flies?
Yeah.
The book?
Only they changed the ending, so a nuclear bomb drops and kills all the children.
Oh, good Lord.
Yes, right there.
So, the main goal of the AR/VR class was that they had us make video games, right? And I am not really a fan of VR games like that. You know what I mean? Because you have to, first of all, put this giant thing on your head, right? You gotta... I don't see the appeal of VR, because you have to put this giant...
Awkward.
This giant big box on your face. And it weighs you down.
Man, you look like an idiot.
You do. You've got wires coming on the sides. You got the little thing that you put in your hand so you can interact with the stuff. You're just tapping it midair.
You look like 3PO.
Yeah, I remember we were at a friend's house. Shout out to Ahmad Wright. And we were just hanging out, enjoying ourselves. He showed me a game called Five Nights at Freddy or something. And it's a VR game. So I put the headphones on. It's just like the worst thing ever. I'm on the ground already because it was too real and I'm not used to it. It was like the Oculus thingamabob that everyone was into back in 2021.
Oh yeah.
Did you hear about Apple's new VR augmented reality type goggles that they've got? Like, how much do they cost?
No, I've never heard of any of that.
They've got so Apple's got some goggles that they're making, what is it, the Vision Pro or something? Maybe I'm confusing it with something else, but they're VR glasses, but it's Apple. This is supposed to be the next big device, which is going to replace the iPhone. I haven't seen anyone test it yet in, real-world settings, so I don't know when it's going to just be made for the general public, mass-produced. that was in the news for a while during the whole camp experience last June. That was still in the news. That's all it is. I mean, I don't know what the appeal is.
Yeah.
I guess people like the immersion, but that's the reason why I always prefer video games from the 90s. You know, like Sonic the Hedgehog and like Sega's line like Gunstar Heroes and Golden Axe. That's all I play for the most part. You guys probably don't know what those games are. But I mean, I enjoyed it, you know, seeing how the different tools work. I think it's good for building skill sets. I think that's just fine. You want to talk about the speakers a bit. So you want to talk about the social interactions there.
Oh,
you know,
yes,
just
I
stuff
do.
about the colleges as well.
I did like the children there. They were cool.
What's your favorite part of the day? I think I already know what it is.
Huh?
Favorite part of the day. What is it? What was it?
My favorite part of the day was lunch.
Yeah, it had to be lunch.
Yeah.
'Cause that's the part we're already eating.
Bruh.
So that was fine. You know, the cafeteria was very, very nice.
Yeah.
You know, I definitely loved it inside there.
Don't forget the fry guy.
Oh yeah, the fry guy, Mr. Jeff. He would.
Yes.
Yeah. What was the song he'd sing? He'd sing like, "This is how we do it."
Yeah.
Na 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 na
Oh,
na na.
oh.
This
And
is how
Go
we
and
do.
get these fries. Come get them while they're hot, hot, hot. Don't be shy.
Yeah, that's what he'd say every single time because that's where everyone would be. They'd be looking for those dough fries,
Right?
and they were so good. They were so
Yeah.
good.
They were really good.
I would always get, even if I was just sometimes I get some one day, but almost every day I would just get some fries.
Right.
I remember there was one time I was waiting in line, and he was just singing the song, and I had been playing the song, because I listen to that song a lot every now and again. Just like, I'll just have it on repeat. It's a good song, you know?
How we do it.
And I remember, like, I was able to remember, I think, like, the first few verses, other than the main hook, "This is how we do it." It's like, "This is how we do it. It's Friday night. On the west side." You know what I'm saying? And it's like, and then it was just, it's like, I kind of joined in. We were just kind of singing. That was hilarious. And it's like, on the last day, he actually remembered me because I was the one singing the song along with him. Because I knew some of the words. That was just like a fun
And I was dancing.
interaction. Yeah, you were. It was fun.
I was break dancing.
It was funny. It'd be funny. But what else? The food there was nice. The cafeteria people were nice there. Miss Rosa, she was running a lot of the stuff that was going on there, catering some of the meals, things like that. I did learn that all the good food is in the back, though. Like, you've got the
Yeah.
mac and cheese.
And on Thursday.
You've got plantains as well. Like collard greens, vegetables. All that good food is usually going to be in the back of the cafeteria. They'll have pizza and fries and burgers at the front, and that's cool. But if you're looking for something more, I suppose, less fast food like, you probably want to go to the very back because they'll have things like fish on Mondays.
Right.
They'll have maybe grits. Maybe they'll have something like, because they did have Soul Food Wednesdays, which is apparently something that every HBCU does, where they'll have fried chicken Wednesdays. They'll have some mac and cheese as well. They'll have some collard greens, maybe some cabbage. All those good things to eat. Any other day, they'll just have chicken, stuff like that. Stuff that you would expect on an average dinner that's really good for you. All the good stuff, rice and things like that. They had plantains one day. I think I already mentioned, which is something I was not expecting. Would you say that you just enjoy talking to people?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, because I noticed that a lot of people just seem to have a good old time at lunch. Everyone was hanging out, talking to each other, so it was a good atmosphere.
Yeah, we had a grand old time.
Only thing is that they didn't have a coffee machine.
Bruh.
Yeah, I know. I need coffee every now and again.
Wait, how do you not get, like, that Starbucks or Black Rifle or all, like, you need the coffee, man.
Even if it's decaf, all that caffeine really isn't good for you.
Yeah. I mean, I would have some decaf, but, like, decaf is the kind of coffee you have at night.
Yeah.
But when it's, like, in the morning and you're, like, groggy and trying to get yourself up, and you might want to just have some regular coffee.
But then doesn't it become kind of an addiction?
Oh, yeah.
It does become...
Or if you're on, like, a very, very long car ride.
Oh, yeah.
Then you might need some coffee.
Yeah, it's not
caffeine.
terrible if you're on a long trip and you're trying to stay awake.
Right.
Anyways, what else about lunch can we talk about? Gee, I mean, I don't know. I mean, we came, we saw, we ate.
Yeah.
That's really all there was to that. So,
Talk to
what?
people.
Yeah, we did. What else? Because sometimes they would take us outside, and we'd be playing outside in the yard
Yeah.
that they have near the.
And I was
And this would be just sometimes
And I
they'd
basically
give us
became
like some
Tom
free time
Brady.
every now and again.
Yeah.
Like every so often, they just say, "Hey guys, we're all gonna go outside to the field." We went out at least twice. One day it was raining a little bit, so that wasn't as enjoyable.
Actually, it was because the rain kind of counterbalanced the heat, so I could play football better. I do not want plan to go on career football, but I did have a good time.
Yeah, that was fun.
We'll get back to sports later.
Oh yeah, because we had something fun on the last day.
Oh my God, Blake, don't spoil stuff, man.
So you want to talk about the speakers there, just to give them a broad assessment of all that.
Yes, the speakers. The speakers were very interesting.
So you had people like Mr. Tori Edwards. He was part of Atlanta Influences Everything. He works in apparel design, things like that. He was telling us stories about his life, how important it was for him to give back to the community, and even talking about how throughout history Atlanta has always been at the forefront of culture in America. You know, you have all the film studios here, things like that. That's a good example. He works in film.
Tyler Perry.
Yep, similar. I think he said he used to be involved with Tyler Perry at one point. And even Tyler Perry, yeah, he's here as well. Have you ever seen like his house? Like his, I saw a picture online. It was awesome.
Yeah, his house was great.
Then they had other people, like they showed us. They had some students there from the fraternities. Some of the people there were some of the mentors. I can't believe I didn't talk about them. Basically, there were people there that would kind of get us through the day. They'd be guiding us along with the day, keeping us on schedule, things like that. And they'd be students as well. Some would be students at CAU. Others would be from different colleges. Like we had this one guy from Columbus State. His name was Mason Thomas. Shout out to him as well. Columbus State, you know, video game designer, developer, things like that. I enjoyed talking to him. He'd be leading us through group 1 throughout the day. It was enjoyable to meet those sort of people, see where their heads were with the colleges. And I would ask them different questions every now and again, just to see where they were, what classes they were taking. I think, what else? There was someone there who was even at the Alvin Ailey School of Dance. Caitlin Clayton, right.
Yeah.
Right. She was there as well. She would be leading the girls group, or no, it was group 2 as well, because we were group 1. So we also had another speaker one day that was talking about music and math as well. His name was Ezra Hogbrooks, and he was one who would play violin. It was good to hear him play and things like that. He was telling us all these different connections between music and math, with timing, keeping count, the beat, things like that, velocity, how fast or how often you play something, about how all these different fields connect to each other in his work. One of the main highlights, I think my all-time favorite speaker out of this whole thing was Professor Bo Bibbins, or Coach
Right.
Bo. He was a football coach at CAU for about a year. And his talk, right, and we saw him the following day when he was hosting the athletic day on the very last day. We'll get to that in a bit.
And it was actually pretty cool that he was there on the first day and the last day.
So his this was on the second week, by the way. His whole talk was talking about because he would talk about more social themes, things like that, like things that were important to us, things that were happening in our communities, and just people in general, how they worked, because he worked in criminal studies, sociology. I think had a bit to play in that, understanding how people thought, how they moved, things like that. And so he was talking about branding, right? About how a lot of times how you present yourself in the world is a large part of how people are going to see you. Like, for example, your image, right? How you show up, how you talk, how you speak, how you move around. That's all part of your brand. Like how, if you've got a family, when you leave out of the house, you represent that family, right? You're a spokesperson almost
Right.
for what people want to get out of you. Names mean something, you know? That was what his first talk was about. I think another thing that he covered, if I remember correctly, was the importance of words. How words have changed over time, what different words mean. More specifically, I would say, in our community, as African Americans, I should say. Like, he took us through some different words. Like, one in particular that I got to comment on was the word ratchet, right?
Yeah.
that he had his kind of just have an honest, real talk, real thought discussion about what do we think the word means. And do you remember what some of the answers were?
No.
Okay. So some of the kids were saying that they thought it meant, I suppose, being loud or things like that. Some of the mentors there, some of the other, I guess, teachers there, I suppose, were giving their thoughts on it, what they meant in their lives, almost saying that you were considered disruptive when in other cases you may have been seen as, I suppose, assertive in that lane. Which I can understand. I didn't personally think that was the meaning. No answer was a wrong answer, which is what I liked about it. There was always room for open discussion, and that's why I liked his talk that one day, out of I think all the other ones. So shout out to him.
I think that one was my second favorite one because the Atlanta influences everything. That was my favorite one.
Yeah, that was good. That was good. I think those two, that's gonna be the ones for us, and then Mr. Hogbrooks.
Yeah, those good.
So the answer I gave, I think, is very interesting, because if you really think about it, the word ratchet, the fact is that in our community we end up making changes to words in pronunciation, in cadence, things like that. But once you really consider that factor, it's not hard to find the dictionary root word. So ratchet, if you really think about it, is really just a play on the word wretched. And that's the answer I gave, and I raised my hand when he asked, all right, what do you guys think it means? What it meant is that it means wretched, and wretch just means being unruly in public, things like that. Maybe you're acting rudely, maybe you're not behaving. Like, you've got that one guy or that one family in a restaurant who's just, you don't know what's going on in the booth behind you, and you don't want to know, but you just know that it's wrong, and you don't want to get involved. We've been there, right? At least once or twice.
You don't want to know.
Exactly. To me, that's what being ratchet is, if you will. Just not behaving the way you should in public settings, or even when you're at home, because it starts at home. In a more behavioral sense, what you present in public can be a direct reflection on what could be happening at home. So those two things connect in different ways. What other word did he give? Lame, right? We all say lame.
Yeah.
And everyone associates that with being uncool or stuff like that. So what are your thoughts on the word lame?
I think what lame means to me is just, someone who's just generally uncool, like someone who has no purpose to the world, serves nothing to human existence, and is just there and boring, and kind of guy you would never want to talk to because he has nothing interesting to say. He serves no purpose to the world. That's what lame means to me.
Dang, that's a little hardcore, don't you think?
Yeah, like it kind of reminds me, like, what if like the Sorting Hat from Harry Potter was in real life? Okay, you are horrifically obnoxious and have no redeeming qualities whatsoever, ever, and do not want to get a job. You shall be a TikToker.
Yo, wait, hold on. Wait. I think that for me, and this is what I was thinking about, when you really break down the term, lame originally was a term used for people who couldn't walk, had disabilities in their legs, right? Maybe you had to be in a wheelchair, you couldn't move. But I think that, and this is the really interesting part, versus the more modern day translation between what it used to mean, because words can have different meanings,
At the time they were said.
Exactly. So, I would say that lame then meant that you couldn't walk, right? You physically could not walk, you physically could not make that decision because it had been taken away from you. Maybe you were in a war, you had to wear a prosthetic, things like that. That's what being lame is, right? Maybe you were even born with it. However, I'd say lame in the modern day is where you have the ability to do something, yet you choose not to, right? And that could be, and lame could be something, not to say that you should always be doing something if someone else calls you lame, because that could be a product of peer pressure and you not realizing it. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that I feel like lame back then meant lame as in you physically cannot do something, but lame now means lame as in you physically can do something, yet you won't. Lame as in can back then, lame as in won't nowadays.
Right.
That's what I feel the modern translation is.
Because I think that's a reflection on just modern society as a whole, because because you can still do stuff that you're used to do, you just have a choice not to do it, and you can be relatively okay.
That's also true. That's also true. I feel like lame, I don't think it's an outright insult nowadays. Like, for example, the word idiot was meant for someone who wasn't really involved in politics back in Roman days.
Right.
So words can change and have different meanings over time, depending on who's saying it.
Yeah, words have meaning at the time they were said.
Exactly. I think that was the two main points of his talk. I think that wraps up our CAU experience. Oh, wait. At the very next to last day was that they had some of us come up and give basic reflections on our experience at CAU overall. Both me and Chase came up and we gave our thoughts. They asked us specifically as well. They'd select a group of kids in particular. They'd ask them to speak. We will play that for you right now. Roll the clip.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
Hello, everybody. My name is Chase Carter Swent, and this is my reflection on the Verizon Innovative Program. When I first arrived at the Verizon Innovative Program, I learned about it from my piano teacher, Miss Stroman. And when I finally arrived, and I was immediately excited because I had to get the opportunity to walk the same campus that my parents once did. And when I arrived here, I didn't know what to expect. None of the kids looked like me or acted like me, or no one there, and I felt really alone at first. I was kind of lonely. And, well, first of all, do you know that millions of young Americans consider themselves lonely? Well, to all of the lonely people out here, and I'm sure there are probably some people in this group who consider themselves lonely, is that you're not alone, because the fact that there are millions of lonely people proves that people want you. People want to be around you. People want you. You can add something to this world. And I think that's what STEM is really all about. It's about adding stuff to this world. Science is about making discoveries. And I discover new people here. I discover other people. I don't want to name any names, but whatever, I'm going to name some names. I met Bryce, Winfred, Christian, Wolfgang, Steven. I also met Carter, Aiden, Graydon, Luke, and Marcus, and Kingston. I could go on, but we don't have all day. But hey, the point is, someone out there wants you. You can add something to this world, but the only way you can add anything to this world is if you go, get it.
Hear me? Thank you. Hello everyone, my name is Blake Swin. I'm here to give you some reflections upon my experience here at CAU, first time here. Shout out to my parents right up here in the front, Mr. Thomas Swin. Shout out to my dad right over here, Mr. Benny Swin. Overall, the classes here were enjoyable. I enjoyed the people who taught them. I think I especially enjoyed the 3D classes the most because for the positive design aspects, how they showed us the process, the additive design, and all the interactiveness of them. I definitely enjoyed that one, so shout out to Dr. O. I thought it was interesting to see the college experience at work and seeing all the different parts of campus and being showed around, the fields, the different yards, even some of the stories they told us about what would happen if you walked on the grass. You know what I'm talking about. I also enjoyed many of the speakers that we had here that would come by during each week. Maybe you'd have 2 or 3. Some of the ones that I'd like to give a shout out to are Mr. Tori Edwards, Mr. Herman Howard, Professor Bo Bibbins, and Ezra Hawk Brooks. You guys are amazing. I enjoy your company. In closing, I'd like to thank Ms. Robin Clayton for all the mentors. I see Miss Zoe over there, Miss Grace, I see Mr. Mason, I see Miss Chloe, I see a lot of other faces right here. I see Miss Caitlin right over there as well. I appreciate all the work that you guys have done and all the cafeteria people as well for giving us the food throughout today. The food and work is appreciated, and so is the food there. Mr. Jeff, the fry guy, we all know what he is. Thank you for closing. Thank you for your time and consideration. We're just glad to be here. See you later.
You know, I thought you sounded pretty good. What'd you think of me, honestly? Oh, come on.
You're alright.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, you alright.
Really, dude?
You alright.
No, I.
Okay, you were pretty good.
Thank you.
Honestly.
Thank you. I think you were amazing as well.
Yes.
So you want to talk about the very last day, which was the athletic day? They took us through different drills. It was just like a giant gym, basketball court, that sort of thing.
Yelling.
And the main objective of that day was, okay, you guys are going to be split into teams of 4. You guys are going to be playing against each other in alternating games. So they taught us different drills, dribbling, things like that. They taught us about, what else? Just how to move the ball, working with teams, passing, how that's underutilized in sports, in the basketball field in general.
Yeah.
Just getting good at stopping, shooting, aiming, different things, even different techniques depending on what hand you use as your dominant hand. And I think that was interesting for me because we're not typically the sporty kids, right? You know, like, we're not. We've done sports once or twice, but it's never really been our thing. Yet we're not to say that we can't be athletic if the situation calls for it. We can move around. We can get up and do the things. You know, you just show us what to do, we'll pick up on it. So I thought that was really good to know because all sports is about patterns. I think when you break it down, like understanding this goes where the angles, a lot of it probably has a lot to do with math. Maybe you don't think about it in the moment because if you think, then that can cost you the game if you think for too long. But I think that's where I think STEM can kind of build into this sort of things. And even what some of the other instructors were saying, all this is math, really. They had us measure out the field, you know, the actual perimeter and the area of the actual basketball court. Right, that was a good introduction to just get you to understand how all this works. And even something else, I think, when Professor Bo was teaching us, this goes back to something that he said, I think, and this is just socially as well, respect will take you more far, than a ball ever will. And I think he said this as a response to say that a lot of the kids there, you know, were sport-based kids. They enjoyed it. And there's nothing wrong with liking sports. Sports is really good. There's a lot of work ethic involved in that field. It's very good for moving your body, good exercise. There's a lot of good benefits to sports. But at the same time in life, you never know what's going to happen. You know? You could have, and I think the Rocky movies are a good example of this, because he was all about boxing and stuff. But, like, even in, I think, as the time went on, he got slower. You know, by the 5th movie, he really wasn't in any position to be boxing anyone at all.
Right, because what happened in the 4th movie, which is the greatest film of all time, by the way.
You never really know what's going to happen in certain situations. You may lose a use of your hands. You may lose something because you're working it so hard. You may be involved in an accident. You may never be able to pick up a ball again. So it's good to have other things going for you that not only use your physical strength, but your mental strength. I think that was a really good lesson, I think.
Right.
I think that's all we're going to say about CAU. All in all, I think it's a great experience. I would recommend it to anyone if you want to go.
Right.
If anything, this was really a good masterclass in what public school is like, because we're homeschooled, so we've never really been around that sort of environment.
Yeah, and now I can say with 100% certainty that the education system is completely
a normal institution. The public school system is a normal, functioning institution.
I think that's going to wrap us up for today's show. My name is Blake Alexander.
And my name is Chase Carter.
And this is the Blake and Chase Show. Happy to spend our time with you.
Bye!
Why did you say bye like that?